Now, I hope that everybody had a chance to see those flat irons this morning. They were spectacular. If you missed it, too bad. My name is Fred Cole, and most recently here, I was a member of UUCB's Strategic Initiative Committee, participating in the process of determining a future for our church home. But on most Sundays, I'll be found just inside the front door at the greeters table, standing next to Barb Richards. You know who she is. It's truly my pleasure every Sunday when I'm here to welcome those that are arriving at UUCB for the first time and being able to assist them as they begin finding their way into this community. So, welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder. I want to take a moment to extend a very warm welcome to everyone who's here in the Earth Room and to all of those who are joining us online. If you're online, we'd appreciate it if you'd fill out one of the visitors forms. You'll find we'd love to connect with you. Some of us are bringing our best selves to this space, and some of us are bringing our struggling selves. But all are welcome here, and all are loved. Some of us arrive with open hearts, and some of us aren't quite there yet. Our hearts might have gotten a little beat up about last week or so, and maybe we've forgotten how to be open and trustful. But that heart's welcome here also. No matter how bruised, we welcome you among us. Because all of us are imperfect, but we're here to drop our defenses and trust that what happens in worship is a powerful and life-giving experience. We affirm that this day and our being together can make each of us braver, more compassionate, and wiser than when we woke up this morning. 2 announcements this morning. This coming Friday, December 1st, is Community Family Night. All are welcome. It's a potluck. There'll be caroling and gingerbread houses, and maybe a special visitor.
And ugly sweaters.
In ugly sweaters. I forgot the ugly sweaters. Mark the ugly sweaters. Yes. And I'd also call your attention to the giving tree, which is in the sky room, which has some ornaments on it that are suggested gifts for children. And what's the cutoff date, Rachel?
December 10th.
Okay, we're asking those toys be returned to the church by December 10th. But check it out. There's a whole range of things that are suggested. And with that, this morning, I have the great pleasure of welcoming Reverend Teri Schwartz back to our pulpit. Teri has probably the widest ministerial reach of anyone I know. It goes from here to Juneau, Alaska, and then back again. But there's more. Beginning in February, she'll be the part-time transition minister for the Boulder Valley UU Fellowship. And she'll be doing that until they find an interim minister for the fellowship. So, welcome, Teri. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you, Fred. Well, good morning. I have been looking forward to being in worship with all of you, and that really says something because it's a holiday. Clergy like to take holidays too. It has been my delight to watch the church and feel its energy and growth and change from afar through David. For anyone who may be newer to the church, our lead minister, Reverend David Schwartz, I am his other half, and you can decide which is the better half. But he'll come home, and I'll ask him around 3 o'clock on Sundays, well, how was church? And he'll say, church was great. I say, okay. Many Sundays he'll say, there were more people there than last Sunday. I said, oh, just like last week. Okay. But here's what I want you to hear. He said, I'm so proud of them. It's about you, not him. And he is keenly aware that when that day comes, and we hope it is a long day from today, when you have your construction done and you are a people that you are now that has grown even bigger in the sense of your heart and purpose and reach and members, that he wants you to have that and owned by you when life calls him to the next place. Again, may that be a long time from now. Well, let us join in a worshipful space and settle our hearts and minds and our spirits to be together this morning. I welcome us into worship with these words from my colleague, the Reverend David Breeden. Yes, there is no binary. The road not taken is not a fork. That's too simple a thought. Flipping some coin. Either or, nope. It's not this or that, nor no or yes or nor, neither and all of the above and more. The road taken goes every way at once. There, they, them, go, live now. Let's rise in body or spirit for our opening hymn. We're going to sit at the welcome table. The lyrics will be projected for you. And let's join and make a joyful noise or harmony. Our wisdom story today is adapted from Neither by Arlie Anderson. Let's see, we need a chair. We'll have some media projection. This is analog. I want to connect with everybody in multiple formats.
Once upon a time, there were two kinds.
this,
And that.
these, and
Those.
one or the other.
Until... Oh no, I forgot my honk.
Honk!
What kind are you?
I'm both.
You can't be both. You must be neither.
I'm neither. Neither tried to play hopscotch with the blue rabbits.
You can't play with us. You're not rabbity enough.
Neither tried to play badminton with the birds.
You can't play with us. You're not birdie enough. You're not one of us. You're neither. Why don't you go find somewhere else?
So neither flew as far as they could until neither found a place that was definitely somewhere else. There were no rabbits or birds there. And when neither landed, they saw a purple cat, but the purple cat had butterfly wings. The caterfly asked,
Where did you come from?
Honk. I'm from the land of this and that, but I'm neither. So I'm looking for somewhere else to fit in.
This isn't somewhere else, but you will fit in here.
Where is here?
The land of all.
Oh, there are so many kinds.
This group called out, Come play with us.
But I'm different from everyone here. I'm neither. I'm not red, I'm not orange, I'm not blue, I'm not dark purple or light purple.
Exactly, said the whole group.
Oh, yay. The next day, 2 others showed up in the land of all.
Excuse us. We're from the land of this and that, but we don't fit in at home. We're looking for somewhere else.
Neither was a little confused and still hurting. But you said I was neither. You said I should go somewhere else. But in time, neither's heart softened and they continued. Well, this isn't somewhere else. This is, after all, the land of all, and everyone fits in here.
Once upon a time, there were many kinds, this and that.
Somewhat and whatnot.
Either very,
Sort of and just.
rather, a little,
Neither and both and
all were welcome.
Our flaming chalice is a symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. It suggests that perhaps within our separate selves burns a flame of unity and connection and compassion once felt, that fire cannot be extinguished, and so we gather, weaving our lives together. We look everywhere for wisdom and a good word. And sometimes that comes from Scripture. Sometimes it comes from YouTube. But whether from 2,000 years ago or 2 hours ago, from the ancient scrolls to pixels on a screen, storytelling can deepen our sense of meaning, belonging, empathy, and connection to our common humanity. This is the mission of Story District. Story District is an organization in Washington, D.C. that teaches and showcases true first-person storytelling and inspire, connect, and build community of diverse voices in our nation's capital and beyond. Every year for Pride Month, they host a special storytelling show called Outspoken. To light our chalice today, we'll hear highlights from Rebecca Kling's story from Outspoken in 2017.
July 2009. I'm in Chicago, headed downtown on the train for my appointment at the Daily Center to at long last legally change my name from my old male name to a new female name. And honestly, the hearing takes about that long, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, during which the judge directs more sirs at me than seems strictly necessary. But I know to pick my battles. 2 months and $526 after first filing my petition for name change, I am legally and duly recognized Rebecca Roden Kling. So I go down to go across the street to the DMV, and getting a new corrected license is actually pretty easy. $5 and a copy of that certified paperwork. But when I ask about changing the gender marker from an M to an F, I'm told I need a note from a doctor. But it reminded me how much it can hurt to not have documentation that matches who you are, how difficult it can be to move through the world. And something occurs to me. Summer of 2009, I've been getting ma'amed more and more. I've been getting sirred less and less. I've been getting ladies when out with friends or using the women's dressing room at stores without a problem. And what if I go to a different DMV and tell a little white lie? It's not just me being stubborn. Okay, well, it's a little bit me being stubborn. But it's also that difficulty of moving through the world, of getting pulled over and fearing a roadside referendum on my gender and just being able to hand the officer my license. It's the difference of having that interaction with a bouncer or just walking into a bar. It's the difference of fearing that the TSA is going to catch me trying to smuggle a penis through airport security and just catching my flight. I head to another DMV. And my number is called, and I go up to a little old lady at the counter, and I say, "Hi, I was just at the DMV downtown, and there was a mistake somehow, and it says M on my license, and that doesn't make any sense." And she looks at me, and she looks at my license, and she looks at me, and she says, "Well, let's get that taken care of." The gods of bureaucracy are smiling on me. And I'm sure that some of that had to do with the privilege of the color of my skin and the way that I speak and being able to connect with that little old lady at the DMV, but in the moment, all I can do is stand there and nod. And she types away, humming and looking at her screen, and I am convinced that she can see right through me, that the screen is displaying my old name, displaying my old photo, displaying all of my lies and subterfuge, but I make it. And she hands me a sheet of paper saying, "Take that to the clerk. It was our mistake, so they won't charge you, but they'll need to sign off on it." And she sends me on my way. And in the moment, I am convinced that I have pulled the wool over this woman's eyes, that I have fooled the DMV, and that I have gotten away with something amazing. But since then, I've reconsidered. What if she knew everything? What if my old name, my old photo, my old license, and my old gender was on that screen for her to see, and she helped me out anyway? It is really easy to come up with a list of people who have not had my back, of bouncers, and police officers and judges and people sitting in the Oval Office. But what if there's another list? A list that I don't get to see but still exists, of people who have had my back even when I didn't know it.
May we be a church of the land of all and have one another's backs, and with gratitude for those who have our backs.
We are not bound together by a creed or a specific list of things that we all believe exactly alike. We are not united by our shared values expressed in our 7 principles and by the commitments that we make with each other about what creates this community. To name that commitment, will you join together in person and online and repeat this covenant just as we've been doing it for the last 65 years? Please stand. We gather in fellowship to speak truth to each other, to reach out and touch one another, to care with each other, and to seek the truth.
So be it.
May it be so.
Our words for meditation today come from my colleague, the Reverend Teresa Soto. Your stories belong to you. Dear trans, non-binary, genderqueer, and gender-expansive friends and kin, and those of us whose gender is survival, let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up. You are not hard to love and respect. Your existence is a blessing. Your pronouns are not a burden or a trial. They are part of your name, just shorter. Someone getting them wrong is not a poor reflection on you. It is not your fault. Your body, really and truly, belongs to you, no one else. The stories of your body, the names of your body's parts, your body's privacy, the sum of your body's glory. It is not okay for anyone to press their story of you back to the beginning of your and our liberation. We will find the people ready to be on the freedom for the people way. We will go on. No one can rename you other. It can't stick, as you offer the gift of being and saying who you are. Mostly, though, your stories belong to you. Your joy and complexity are beautiful, however you may choose to tell it or not tell it. Some folks, sis, may take their liberty for an unholy license. You are beloved, please. Keep to our shared task of healing, getting free. As we gather with the concerns of our own hearts every Sunday, we gather with the concerns of the world. And we hold our stories tight, all of us, and we open our hearts to the stories of others, be they across the pew or across the world. And we keep to our shared tasks of healing, of getting free. Let us call to mind and hold with the compassion of the heart and renew the conviction of our spirit. Those who suffer or mourn, may they be comforted and find peace. May those who hunger or thirst eat and drink. May those who have experienced violence find care and comfort, safety, healing, and justice. May all of us find loving kindness, and may we share it generously. May we open our hearts and minds to love and care for all people and our community and beyond. And we remember, as those cares and concerns come to our hearts, all those remembered that may be forgotten, and we hold them there as well. With that, I invite you to bring to mind those things for which you are grateful or joyful this morning. Bring to mind things that you worry about, things you grieve. For all of these joys and sorrows on our minds and in our hearts, we hold this compassionate space with love. For those here in person, I invite you to come forward as you feel so moved and silently place a stone into the earth to symbolize your joys and cares, taking the place in a larger whole, mingling with each other, held in the hand of the earth. Come forward as you feel so moved. when you're a guest preacher, you're kind of in someone else's house. I don't have all my arrangements. They were excited to go to the DMV. That by itself tells you this story is special. They couldn't sleep, and they left home at 4:24 in the morning. So they could be the first person inside when the doors opened 3 hours later. They were about to become the first person in the country to receive the city's new gender-neutral driver's license, which designates genders by male, female, or X. And 3 hours later, they received their accurate ID. They said, "It's important to me because it means I'm knowing I'm valid and not erased." That's the story of Shihei Sakurai, who doesn't identify with a specific gender. They use the pronouns they and them. That was in 2017, when the District of Columbia became the first jurisdiction in the country to offer non-binary driver's licenses and IDs. Now, 6 years later, today, nearly half of US states allow gender nonconforming people to have an accurate ID. At the federal level, though, the government still does not permit gender-neutral or non-binary markers on passports, Social Security records, and most every federal document. In 2021, 2 years ago, Sakurai told the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, "I believe I have a legal and human right to access accurate ID documents." This is not merely a bureaucratic issue. It can be a life or death issue. Sakurai says they've experienced street harassment and physical assault because of being non-binary. They've said they've seen editorials written to demean me, and horrifying comments on news articles saying that non-binary people should be sent to a guillotine or the gas chambers. All of these acts of violence seek to erase me, they say. I do not need the federal government erasing me too. I didn't know this, but Shihei Sakurai is the same Shihei Sakurai who is Reverend Shihei Sakurai, the Director of Equity, Belonging, and Change at the UUA. That's our denominational headquarters in Boston. Our concept as a culture that there are two genders is simply a matter of our culture and moment in history. Because cultures throughout time and around the world have had some form of a third gender more often than not. And often that third gender has a special role in society. Sometimes it is a fixed identity. Sometimes the third gender is a category of fluid identities. In Samoa, there's the Fa'ofafin. In Muslim Indian societies, the Hijiras. In the Ottoman Empire, there were the Cossack. In Oaxaca, Mexico, there are the Mujes and Zapotec culture. In numerous American indigenous cultures, they're the two-spirited people. In Thailand, the Cathaways. In Indonesia, the Warriors. In indigenous Hawaiian culture, a third gender is the Mahus. And increasingly, in US culture, genderqueer identities are expansive and fluid. And in Sulawesi, Indonesia, there are 5 genders. So, what if the land of this and that is what's made up? Sometimes our culture gets things wrong, really wrong. In the 1950s, our culture was telling black girls they couldn't go to integrated schools, let alone go in spaceships. But then comes Mae Jemison, our culture did not have a category for a black woman astronaut until Mae Jemison launched into space in 1992 as a mission specialist aboard the Space Shuttle Endeavour. As a little girl southside Chicago, Jemison watched the Apollo airings on TV, and she was upset. There were no women astronauts. She was inspired by African-American actress Nichelle Nichols on Star Trek. And as a little girl, she became determined to travel to space. The culture was wrong. It had to change. And it still has to. One Sunday is not sufficient nor an adequate amount of time to do a doctoral thesis on gender theory. So I'm going to give you the TLDR summary. And if the internet's not a close and personal friend of yours, that's too long, didn't read. There are more than two genders. And you can't tell someone's gender by looking at them. That's an inward identity only we can know for ourselves. Only a person can tell their own gender. And their gender may or may not correspond to the body they were born with. But our language gets to be tricky because in English we use gendered pronouns to refer to other people. She, him, hers, his. And typically we used they, them for a third person plural when the gender wasn't clear. But more and more people are using they and them pronouns because the ideas that there's only male or female, this or that, one or the other, isn't any truer than the old idea that a black woman couldn't be an astronaut. For my fellow grammar enthusiasts out there, I feel you. This was very hard on my ears for a while. I wanted to be welcoming and loving and do the right thing, but the grammar! You can use they, them as a third person singular gender neutral pronoun. And if it sounds different to you, you'll get accustomed to it, and probably pretty quickly. And a linguist on NPR assured the listening audience that the third person singular use of they, them is okay because language changes all of the time. So why? Why does this really matter? Is it really a big deal? Think back 30, 40-ish years ago. Remember when women didn't want their marital status to be a relevant issue in employment and introductions and their identities? Not to be a miss or a Mrs., but a Ms. Go back a little bit before that. Remember when he was a universal language for all people? But it actually wasn't and isn't because you couldn't wear pants or have a credit card? Gender identity is on the inside, and it doesn't necessarily correspond to the body we're born into. And if we guess someone's pronouns, we make an assumption based on how someone looks to us. And when we do this, we assume. Remember the old saw about what happens when you assume? An ass out of you and me. We're telling them, you have to look a certain way for us to believe who you are. And if you don't fit my idea of how I learned a man should look, dress, and act, or how a woman should look, dress, or act, you are other. Which is then wrong somehow. You're neither. So gender nonconforming people get a lot of personal questions, very personal questions and scrutiny, and often that comes at the risk of their own safety. So here is my quick note to have in your back pocket for all of us when in doubt. If it is not a question you would have asked your grandma at Thanksgiving, it is not a good question to ask someone who is gender nonconforming. Grandma, I've been wondering, are you really sure you're a woman? How do you know? I mean, don't you think it's just a phase you'll grow out of? I I don't need to know if she wears skirts more often than pants, or her hair is long or short, or the gender of the people she's been attracted to through her life, nor the constellation of her genitals. We simply call her the name she likes. Grandma, Nana, Nona, Jane, Catherine, whatever she wants. This may sound complex, but that's it. Don't worry about it. We just call a person by the pronoun they want, just like we call one another by the name someone wants. So I've heard it said, I'm not comfortable using she for so-and-so. So here's another thing for all of us in our back pockets. I'm going to tell you a little secret. It's not about you or your comfort. So remember, we don't know someone's gender by looking at them. And most importantly, it's about treating one another with respect as someone with inherent worth and dignity. The platinum rule, not as we wish to be treated, but as they wish to be treated. So again, we hear this with your new name tag sometimes. Why should we all share our preferred pronouns? Can't you tell by looking at me? Well, no. Remember, gender's only known on the inside. It lets everyone share their pronouns without having to other themselves or draw attention or scrutiny to themselves. It signals you're a safe person to talk to. It ensures that everyone feels respected and welcome, even if we do that, and especially when that's imperfect. It's about living up to our commitment to be an LGBTQIA welcoming congregation, and not just meaning it, but living it, keeping pace with it, because culture doesn't stand still, and thank goodness for that. Language always changes, and culture has already moved on this one. Like, we're about a decade behind the leading edge in this kind of gender growth. 2 million adults in America identify as gender non-binary. 13.7 million kids identify as non-binary. And we get to decide if they feel welcome here. It means we get to choose which list we'll be on. The list of bouncers, police officers, judges, and former presidents who don't have their backs. Or are we on the ever-growing invisible list that does have the backs of trans and non-binary people? Culture changes. Language changes. And thank goodness, we needed Mae Jemison on that space shuttle. To be the church of today and the church for tomorrow, we also get to and need to change. And that's exactly what you've been doing with your gender-neutral bathrooms, and earlier in the fall with your new name tags. You started one pronoun at a time. Not an end, but a beginning, a step. And about those driver license with forced male and female genders, going back to Sakurai, they said, it didn't previously felt like I had a choice, but it had been on my mind for 14 years that this could be possible. And it was. And it is. If of all things the government can be progressive, then as a liberal church committed to the inherent worth and dignity of all people, we can do even better. The grammar of inclusion is the language of the land of all. May it be so. May we make it so. And amen. Let's sing together. Hymn number 168. Well, you don't need hymn numbers here, because that's going to be projected. All right, let's sing one more step, rise in body or as spirit as you feel so moved.
For this entire month of November, we've been sharing our plate offering with the Teepee Raisers, headquartered in Lafayette. Since 2009, the Teepee Raisers have been coordinating food drives, service and construction projects, working with and for the Lakota, Dene, Hopi, and Ute Mountain tribes. UUCB began sharing our energy with Teepee Raisers in 2019. And to date, about 60 of our members of all ages have participated in their hands-on working visits to the reservations. Our shared goal ultimately focuses on reconciling the difficult history of the indigenous people and the U.S. government, believing in the healing power of relationship. And indeed, I also believe that building of meaningful relationships is the key to all of our justice work. Now, I personally have not gone on any of these trips myself, but I have spent some time, quite a bit, on the Navajo and Hopi reservations. I always knew where I was going to be. On Easter morning, I was cooking breakfast in the campground on Second Mesa. This concept of building relationships was a driving force behind the 9th grade trip and the lessons that we brought to the youth. I see that spirit and commitment continuing with the Teepee Raisers. For those online, you can use the QR code or find a link in the video description. For those gathered in person, you can also scan the QR code or make a donation as the ushers now pass the baskets. May our gifts be used to enact justice, bringing peace and love into the Boulder community.
May it be that the caterfly invited neither to the land of all, and it was the church, UUCB, in the land of all. Our worship has ended and our service begins. Let us join in our congregational closing words. Oh, is this on? Walk the you so much, Fred.